I'm going to say the thing that you're absolutely not supposed to say. Now, to quickly answer this question, or wherever I end up putting it on the screen, about submitting scripts, right? So like, I'm a story consultant. I help people get their scripts to the best version of their story, whatever story that they want to tell. And then what? Then what? Where does it go? How does it end up in the hands of someone who can help me make it, or who will pay me money for it, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera? I have two answers for that, but the second one is really important. The first one is that the lowest hanging fruit is always going to be open calls, fellowships, labs, screenwriting contests, things like that, things that you don't have to know anybody to apply to. Yes, they are extremely competitive, but they give you access in a way that you don't have to know anybody. The next thing is sending an inquiry to a production company. Most production companies and studios do not take unsolicited material, but some of them do. So sending an inquiry, we call that a query letter, query email to those companies that do accept that material. And then the next phase of that would be if you are rep. So the other ones, if you don't know anyone, you're not repped at all. The next level would be if you're repped, having your representative or your lawyer send them out. And then, of course, the next step beyond that would be your personal relationships, right? So you know executives, or you met executives out in the wild, producers, or people who work at production companies, et cetera, who have the ability to greenlight or finance your project, financiers that you've met directly out in the wild. So that's kind of the level of the way this goes. So yes, that is the traditional answer and the traditional way to send your script out, sort of in that order of your experience and the kind of relationships that you may have. Here's a second answer. I don't know. So I know traditionally how things work. I've been in the industry for a long time. Things are changing so much and so rapidly. And I think a lot of us, like people who give advice, or people who help filmmakers, or people whose work it is to help create careers for filmmakers and screenwriters, like, can't or don't use the language, I don't know. And I know why people don't necessarily use that language, but I'm using it because I think it's extremely important for us as thought leaders, whatever that term is, people who have a tiny bit of experience, to acknowledge that we are peers too. We are peers as well. And that some of the stuff we don't know the answer to. Like, I know how things work, and I'm happy to say how things work according to my knowledge. But then there is an extension of my knowledge that I don't have, because things are changing, because those channels are not, they've never been free-flowing, especially for the isms that exist. But they are not as free-flowing as they have been. And it's really important for us as a community to be transparent. That's my point. Like, all my work is about being transparent. Like, that's the whole point, is to be transparent. And transparently, there is a gap in my knowledge as things are happening that I kind of have to wait and see, like you kind of have to wait and see. And so, yes, I want to be clear about answering this question. Yes, I want to be transparent about how things work. If you don't have that experience yet, that's the answer. In terms of where things are going, in terms of what to do with your script, should you be trying to produce it yourself? Should you be seeking out your own relationships with financiers? Should you be creating your own production company? Should you be developing a slate of projects that speak to your voice? Should you be figuring out how to independently finance things? That doesn't mean things have to come out of your pocket, but whether that's pooling your resources with other people, starting relationships with financiers, which really is not impossible. It is getting out into the community, shaking hands, kissing babies, getting to know people, high net worth individual business owners, and all of that for yourself, as opposed to waiting for a production company to finance your project. Like, should you be doing that? I don't know. I think that things are more in your hands than sometimes we give ourselves credit for. You'll hear me on that soapbox a lot on this channel. I want you to feel like you will have the knowledge that will get you where you want to go, but you also feel empowered to make things happen yourself. And in the midst of all of that, we are learning where things are going, and we are throwing spaghetti at the wall. Like as an educated guest, not just out of nowhere, but with our knowledge, we're throwing spaghetti at the wall in terms of mixing and matching what we know has worked in the past and what we understand about the industry and what we understand about the market and the business side of things, so that we can make educated guesses about what we do with our work next. I know that's like a little bit of a jumble of words, but I just want to be very transparent that there's what I know, what I don't know, and what I don't know that I don't know, just like anybody else. And I'm as much of a educator as I am a peer. And my advice would be to get granular about what you know about the industry and the history of the industry. There's a book that I have my students read. It's called The Business of, hold on, let me find it. It's called The Business of Film. I have my students reading the 3rd edition. It's by Stephen Greenwald and Paula Laundrie. The first few chapters about the history of film are extremely enlightening. I teach at 2 different universities, and at both universities I have my students reading this book. It is incredibly informative, and it breaks it down for them in a way that they can understand. I'm not like getting paid to promote this book at all. I just think it's an incredible resource, and I have my students reading it. And I think starting here is a great place to understand how to navigate the film and television industry today, even though things have changed since this book has come out quite dramatically. But it does speak to change. It does speak to technology. It does speak to the future. And more importantly, it speaks to the past. And so in terms of figuring out what to do next, I would start either here or somewhere similar in terms of building up your own understanding of things. I hope this helps. Happy writing.